Glass breaks easily. You drop it once, it cracks, you hit it along the edge, it shatters almost instantly. And that is usually where most people stop thinking about it, until you see something very different, which is a piece of glass being shot directly with a bullet and not allowing it to pass through even. Though the surface visibly cracks and deforms under the impact, which immediately suggests that the way glass behaves depends far more on how it is made than what it is made from. Because the same base material can either fail immediately or absorb a high energy impact depending on how its internal structure is arranged. Everything begins with silica sand, which is mostly silicon dioxide. But raw sand on its own is not enough to make usable glass at scale, so it is mixed with soda ash to reduce the temperature needed to melt it, and limestone to improve durability, along with recycled glass that helps the mixture melt more consistently. And this combination is fed into a furnace where temperatures rise beyond 1500 degrees Celsius, at which point the original grains lose their structure completely and turn into a thick molten material that moves slowly and can be shaped depending on how it is handled. And at this stage, the temperature is high enough that even small variations in composition can change the behavior of the liquid glass, which is why manufacturers often include recycled glass in the mixture, because it melts more easily than raw materials and helps stabilize the process, reducing the amount of energy required and making the final material more consistent. For flat glass, which is what you see in windows and buildings, the molten material is directed onto a bath of molten tin, where it spreads naturally into a flat sheet because of gravity and surface tension, forming a smooth surface without mechanical pressing, while the thickness is controlled by how quickly it is pulled across the surface. And once that shape is formed, the glass is cooled gradually in a stage called annealing, so that different parts of it do not contract at different rates, because uneven cooling introduces internal stress that can cause the material to crack on its own. And this is also why large sheets of glass are produced in continuous processes rather than individual pieces, since maintaining a steady flow allows better control over temperature and thickness, which directly affects how the glass will behave later when it is cut and used. At this point, the glass is stable and usable, but it still behaves in the way most people expect, meaning it can break relatively easily under the wrong conditions. And the reason for that comes down to surface flaws, because glass does not usually fail because the entire structure is weak. It fails because of very small imperfections, such as scratches or tiny cracks that act as starting points for failure, and when force is applied, stress concentrates at those points and allows the crack to spread rapidly through the material. And once a crack begins to move, it can travel through the material at speeds approaching the speed of sound within the glass itself, which is why the transition from intact to shattered appears almost instantaneous to the human eye. Once you start noticing where glass is used beyond everyday objects, that behavior starts to look less like a limitation and more like something that is being handled carefully. Because the same type of material appears in situations where it has to deal with continuous stress, such as large panels on buildings that are exposed to wind pressure and temperature changes, which means the way stress exists inside the glass has been adjusted during processing. The main approach used to improve its resistance is to change how stress is distributed, especially near the surface, because cracks spread when the material is being pulled apart, so if the surface is under compression instead, it becomes much harder for cracks to open and grow. And this idea is used in tempered glass, where the material is reheated and then cooled quickly at the surface while the interior remains hot for longer, creating a condition where the outer layers are compressed and the inner layers are under tension, which makes the glass more resistant to impact, although it also changes how it behaves when it breaks. When tempered glass fails, it tends to break into many small pieces rather than large, sharp shards, because the internal tension is released all at once. And this is why it is used in places like car side windows and doors, where the way it breaks is just as important as how strong it is before breaking. And this is also why tempered glass cannot be cut or reshaped after the process is complete, because any attempt to alter its structure would disturb the balance of internal stress and cause it to break immediately. A clearer way to understand what is happening inside this type of glass is to look at something called a Prince Rupert's drop, which is formed by letting molten glass fall into cold water, where the outer surface cools almost instantly while the inside remains hot for longer, creating a strong, compressive layer on the outside and a highly stressed interior, and this produces a structure that behaves in a very unusual way, because the rounded head of the drop can withstand direct impact from a hammer without breaking, even though it is still glass. But the thin tail acts as a weak point. And the moment that tail is damaged even slightly, the internal stress is released and the entire structure breaks apart almost instantly from the inside outward. And the speed at which this happens is so high that it often requires high-speed cameras to observe, because the entire structure collapses faster than the eye can follow. For applications where glass needs to remain thin while still resisting damage, such as phone screens, a different approach is used, where the surface is treated chemically by placing the glass in a molten salt bath and replacing smaller ions with larger ones, creating a tightly packed outer layer that resists scratches and impacts more effectively, allowing the glass to handle everyday use while remaining thin and transparent, although it can still crack if damage reaches deeper into the material, especially along edges where force tends to concentrate, and this is also why screen protectors exist, because they act as a sacrificial layer that takes scratches and minor impacts instead of the main surface. Looking at these different methods together, it becomes clear that glass behaves differently depending on how it is processed, because the material used in a phone is not handled the same way as the material used in a building or a vehicle, even though they all start from a similar base. And this becomes even more noticeable in layered systems like laminated glass, where multiple sheets are bonded together with a plastic interlayer that holds the structure intact even after cracking, which is why car windshields can develop cracks without falling apart. Bullet-resistant glass extends this idea further by using multiple layers of glass and polymer materials arranged in a way that spreads the energy of an impact over a larger area and over a longer period of time, so when a bullet strikes the surface, the first layer begins to crack and absorb energy, slowing the projectile down, and as it continues forward, each additional layer deforms and resists the motion, while the polymer layers hold everything together, meaning that the bullet is gradually slowed until it no longer has enough energy to pass through completely. And this is why the glass appears to survive the shot even though it has been damaged, and in many cases what stops the bullet is not a single surface, but the combined resistance of several layers working together, which is why the thickness increases depending on the level of protection required. When you step back and look at all these uses, from buildings to vehicles to personal devices, the pattern becomes clear. Because the material itself does not change dramatically, but the way it is processed determines how it behaves, which is why glass can appear fragile in one situation and far more resistant in another. Even with all these methods, glass still has limits, because it can always break under the right conditions, especially when force is concentrated at a weak point. But instead of trying to eliminate that completely, engineers design it so that it behaves in a way that suits its purpose, whether that means resisting impact, breaking into smaller pieces, or staying together after cracking. So when you look at glass now, whether it is part of a building, a car, or a device, it helps to think of it as the result of a sequence of decisions made during its production, where each step changes how it will respond to stress later, starting from sand and ending in a material that behaves very differently depending on how it was made. And that is what makes it more interesting than it first appears, because it becomes useful by working around its limitations rather than trying to remove them completely.